This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Solutions, the leading iGaming PAM platform with a modular approach, including many benefits like a fast, secure, and scalable API-based platform, integrated with all major third-party products and services. Make sure you head over to Pragmatic Solutions and join our smart thinking.
You are Kelly McSherry.
You want me to do my intro? I'm Kelly McSherry. I'm one of the co-founders of MadeYou. We've been around for nearly 10 years now, and I do a lot of coaching online from my lovely home in rural France. I moved there about 5 years ago, and I get to travel around Europe when we have clients that need work around values and culture mainly, but I also get sent around to go and work on strategy workshops with C-levels, and I love it, absolutely love it.
I love that we sit here. Last time I was in the studio was with Luke. I was sitting on that side, he was sitting here.
I know.
And John, our producer, he goes, this is the first time we do it the other way around.
See, always one for firsts. I love it. I love it. And are you feeling anxious being on the other side of the table?
It's the first time for everything. Last time was that side.
Well, I think that's great.
You and I, we meet here in Malta.
Yes.
Otherwise, we speak quite often and quite long.
We do.
Or online.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Talk about everything and nothing, really.
We do, which is a great basis for a relationship and a friendship, I think.
Exactly.
Because if you can talk about nothing and everything, then there's real depth, I think.
Should we be more formal today so people actually want to listen in?
Do you really think the formality is what gets people listening in, or do you think it's the reality that you are an extraordinary host on these things? You put people at ease very quickly, and I'm very relaxed in your company. So it's up to you. I can be formal. No, I can't. I'm just going to be authentic, which is, you know what you get.
Yeah. So are you building like a personal brand towards me now, making me think that you're a person I want to hang out with? Because that's what we're going to talk about. Not personal brand, but employer branding built on cultures and values.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so,
yes.
okay, let's not be formal, but let's be a little bit more structured.
Okay.
Having a conversation that is not about everything and nothing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll have a conversation specifically around company culture, values, and employee branding. How's that work for you today, Heidi?
Amazing.
Excellent.
Where do we start? Culture.
Yes, where do we start? It's an interesting subject for me because the three are intrinsically linked. You cannot have one without the others. In my experience, I've been doing this for around 20 years now, and I think in MadeYou we've got 50 plus years experience of working with businesses around culture, values, and employee branding. For me, in my career, I'm 51 now. The lighting in here is quite favourable.
I love how you just reveal that.
Well, I've got no problem
Transparency.
at all. Transparency and experience. So I think that for me, what I've noticed is that if I look at today's market, and especially working in the iGaming sector, there is a clear understanding and value put on the notion of understanding what our business values are, and therefore what our culture looks like, and therefore what our employee branding looks like. I think with the clients we work with, and we work with a lot in the sector, the feeling about how it is that we start to introduce the notion about understanding what our culture looks like and feels like starts from the top. It's interesting that I think there was a piece of work we did this year actually, and we had the CEO in the room who was not completely sold on the idea of getting everybody together to really dig into what it is we are as a business. What is our culture really? How do we drive towards what our strategy looks like, but bring our people along with us? How do we attract and retain the right people? We had the workshop for over 2 days, I think it was, with this particular company. By the end of it, he came up, and I don't think I've ever had anybody shake my hand for quite so hard and quite so long, saying that was incredible, and he really had become a convert about what it meant for his business. And I think that's testament to the idea that the people in the business are the ones that are going to drive profit. They're the ones that are going to make EBITDA shine. And so therefore, it's essential. It's like, for me, culture and values are community. And if we can understand what we want of our community, how we want our community to behave on a day-to-day basis, then we need to really understand what that community looks like. So we know what our business strategy looks like, but what is it that we're doing in order to make people that we've got in the business and that we're attracting and retaining, what are we doing to bring them along for the journey? What are we doing to make sure that they come in and they step on the train and they want to stay on the train?
Question.
Yes.
The metaphor of a city or a country comes to me.
Yes.
Nobody really, in the origin of times, setting or building this country or a city, planned for the culture to be like this. This is built by the people for ages and ages, or perhaps it's a new city. What is the mayor or might not at all live according to the culture or the values? Is the buy-in from management always critical? Because you oftentimes, in my experience, especially in this industry, you have a management that, fuck this, I just want the bonus.
I think that those scenarios do exist. My experience tells me that if you have a strong advocate that sits at a fairly senior position within the business, and they're able to get some face time with the CEO or with any members of the C-level that have that attitude you just described, there's always an opportunity to help them to understand that, fuck this, I just want my bonus, is relevant, but you're not going to achieve your bonus unless you have the people in your business wanting to be there in your business with you. And the only way that you can get to that point about having all those people running in the same direction as you is by helping them to understand with them, in fact, about actually what does it mean to be within this organization that we're driving towards generating income and making the business thrive and grow. So in answer to your question about buy-in, it's really important that the C-level understand the value of wanting to understand the values and culture of the business. If you don't have this buy-in up here, and that has to be long-term strategic view, that's not about deciding actually what we're going to do is we're going to get Luke and Kelly in on the 3rd of May for 2 days. We're going to spend a few days doing a workshop with them, and then we can say, tick in the box, we've done it. Look team, we've done it. And then tell the rest of the business these are the values that we've come up with. That's the quickest way to turn people off, because you're telling them what to do. The people that companies want to attract into their businesses, especially in this sector, they're talented, they're autonomous, remote workers, and they really want to feel as though they're adding benefit and value to the proposition that we're delivering for our customers. You can only do that, you can only really do that by getting involvement from the C-level. Then we look at who are the operational leaders, the heads of, who are our people managers. And then how do we manage to make our values and our culture operational? That's a key point that's often missing, because we can go through this project and we can have up on the walls in the office the values, and then we can send out a missive every once in a while, and when we're doing a company event, that's just lip service. That is not how you manage to generate value internally. It is not how you generate great employee branding internally, which then go and speak to everybody else. It's a small island here, and it's a small sector, whether you're working on the island, in an office or remotely. It's very, very small network. So therefore, how is it we translate that into something meaningful that people internally feel as though they belong to something, their personal values are in some way in alignment with the company values, therefore operational managers and people managers are able to help their people to live them and breathe them day by day. Whether it's about saying, Heidi, that was amazing. I love the way that you demonstrated fun as one of our values, and what you did was X, Y, and Z. It's about that notion that in the moment we can give feedback that says, yes, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, fantastic, really love what you're doing.
First, the values on the wall. We talked about this before. All of a sudden, because it's bound to the people, right?
Yep.
The people, the original people, might not be in the company anymore, or values have changed. So you go scrap the middle one and write something new.
Yep.
That would then happen if we trust that we are, culture is goes per evolution. Now, what did you say? Fun.
Don't take your
There
glasses off.
are certain values. I've been thinking about this. There are certain values that everybody wants. Everybody wants to be respected. Everybody wants to be included.
Yep.
Everybody wants to not, work too many. Everybody wants to have a work-life balance. Might look different to everyone, but everybody wants that somehow.
Yep. Yes.
If fun, I want fun.
Yep.
Believe me. But not all people,
Absolutely.
want to have fun at the office. Like I said it before. You don't lure me to the gym, to a CrossFit gym where I have to go, bump fisting. Then I'm not going to go. Hence, you're excluding my interest from your company if you're going to go, we also have fun together. Because maybe I don't want to have fun when I go. Maybe I'm in a time of my life where I just want to go do a good job. Hopefully I want to do a good job. And then I want to go home and live my other part of my life. This exclusion.
Yes.
I'm just thinking it's a bad thing, like it's a risky thing, excluding talent. But I think that you have a different sort of view on this, that you might actually use your values to target just the people that you want.
I think you're right. I think I probably use saying fun.
Put the words in your mouth.
Oh no, actually, I put the words in your mouth. I use fun as one of the values about saying "great job, Heidi." I think fun is such a glib and nebulous word that it's not one that can be espoused as a value, generally speaking. I think it depends on how we define as well. Let's go with fun. So fun for somebody working in customer service is going to be going necessarily into a room with 20 other people in there, having a really good time, feeding off the energy, etc. Fun for somebody working as a coder, working on back office, is going to be about the opportunity to have fun with doing something different creatively, but on their terms. They might want to work remotely, they might want to work in a very quiet office with big headphones on and nobody disturbing them all day. They can still be having fun. It's the definition of fun is different depending on who it is we're talking about. To your point about how we choose to define our values and how therefore that's represented in employee branding, yes, absolutely it can be exclusionary. And yes, there are risks in that as well. Let's take, for example, let's say we want to recruit somebody as head of design. Now, head of design can mean many, many things. Some designers have the most extraordinary capacity to come up with great ways of thinking about new ways to brand, new ways to think about what we're doing as an organization. How do our customers perceive us? Equally, we may need somebody as head of design that's going to come in, we've got a great well-established product, and we need somebody to come in and think strategically about actually what is it we're doing with this product. We do not need to reinvent the wheel, but we do need to take what we have, which is quality, and think about how we augment it over time. That's a very different proposition to the person that's going to come in and change your world from a design perspective. So in answer to your question, yes, values can be exclusionary for good reason at different points in time. Values do not sit and stick with the company forever. They evolve over time. It should be a natural process, which it would be. So to give you an insight, a process that we might adopt, certainly the process we use, we would understand from different levels in the business about what energizes people, what saps their energy, what they love about the business, what they find less enjoyable about the business. Once we've got that information, that's when we go and speak with the C-level. We'd have a workshop for a day, possibly two, depending on the size of the business, and understand from their point of view about where they're going, what direction is, and how they feel about the business. Then we introduce some heads off or the whole head of team at various points to be able to share that with the C-level, and then for the C-level to reimagine, if you will, depending on what comes out of those workshops. Then it's about how do you work with people managers to help make sure they get delivered operationally. Excluding people from some businesses is not a bad thing. Not everybody wants to go and work for Apple, for example, because they may not believe in the product, they may not believe in the ethos, they may not believe in many, many things. They may love the idea of going to move to California to work in that fantastic new round building, I can't remember what they called it. They might love that notion. They might love the notion of working 100 hours a week and being on the cutting edge of technology. That's not for everybody. It is just not. The idea of what does work-life balance mean, how do we espouse that in our values, a massively complex question, incredibly complex, because some people might like working 60, 70 hours a week. That's amazing. That's their thing. That's what they want to do. Some people, your steady eddies, great people, really add value. They're going to want to come in at 9 o'clock and they're going to want to finish at 5 o'clock. The value of those people within your business is they will live and breathe your values, deliver value for you, and certainly deliver on their contractual obligations, add value to the business and the team, whilst coming in as a steady eddy. There's so many variables that come into play. And back to your question earlier, this can only become meaningful.
You're such a long memory.
I do. That's what I do for a job as a coach. If I didn't, that wouldn't be very effective, would I? So then when you go back to the original question about do we need to get buy-in from the top? Yes, because if we don't have that vision from the top, then we cannot possibly hope on a longer term, even with evolution of values and employee branding, to have the success we need to attract and retain the people that we need within the business.
So this process that you were talking about, this sort of trickle down, how long time does it take if you were going to go in, start from scratch with a company?
It depends on the size of the company.
I was just going to ask.
Yes, it depends on the size of the company. But if you take an average, for us, the process it's about arranging people. If we're working with people and we get it blocked in time, it can be as little as 2 weeks. It's an intense piece of work. The initial piece of work about gathering the information, the data about what's good, what's not so good, what energizes, what drains, that can happen remotely. Then there's the need to get people together in a room. And that's where the commitment comes in, because if you've got C-levels living in different parts of the world, that's commitment. So if we know they're buying into this thing and fly us to wherever, or they come over to Malta or wherever, then we know they're in it and they're really meaning to be involved in what's going on. So then If you run a workshop for 1 or 2 days with C-level, and then you introduce heads of, there's another day in there, and then you bring in team leads or whatever level you're doing people management, you bring them in, and then the final day is about making sure that we have everybody together so we're all on the same page and we all understand very, very clearly, and this is where the bit of magic happens actually, is how we take all of that work and we make sure that it becomes operationally meaningful. There is absolutely no point in either spending the money, because it's not an investment if you're not going to see it through. There is no point investing the time or the money unless you're serious about wanting your values and your culture to be lived and breathed as part of the DNA of everybody within the business. And that can only happen if you understand how do we make our values and our culture and our employee branding part of the DNA of everybody that's responsible for their job in the business.
How many percentages? I'm like rushed. How long time does this take? And what exactly is the process? And how many percentages would you say need to be newborn? You taught me the word once. When it comes to buying into this new culture, and how long, based on this percentage, would it then take for us to, even as an external coming in, feeling that there is something going on here?
It's a really good question, and I'm smiling because I've just remembered a workshop. God, this is from 7 years ago, I think. We were in Sweden, actually. We were invited to go to Sweden, and it was an all hands. We had the whole company there, and I remember it was with Luke and I. We felt we were doing an amazing job. We had everybody involved. We were running a workshop. People, I can't remember what they were doing at the time, but somebody held up a sign in the back saying, "Get me out of here," and it made me smile, just as you're smiling at me now. And I thought, I haven't got everybody. I failed at what I'm doing. I haven't managed to get everybody involved and really doing the kumbaya about what it is we want to do here. It's life. It's natural that you're not going to get everybody fully bought into what it is that you want to do. It's the reality. It may be over time, after we as an organisation, as a community, have decided that actually this is what we believe our values and culture to be. It may be over time that that person, as talented as they may be, feel as though it's not the place for them to be any longer. Now, there's opportunities to coach them to understand what they might want differently around that so they do feel part of this community and the values and the culture. If not, then Heidi, it's the reality of business. It's just the reality of what goes on. We'd like to think that companies get to a point where the vast majority of the people that are working for them then go out and talk to their mates, we're in here in Malta or wherever they happen to be online, and they talk about how extraordinary it is to work for XYZ company. Because by doing that, we're starting to present our employee branding externally. And of course, we work internally with HR after these processes to understand what did the benefits package look like? What does it mean for, is it still that people want to come in and have breakfast ready for them every day? Is that really the hook for them to come in? Or is it that because companies are responsible and they have their CSR projects, is it that we've got 5 things, let's say, that are available for me as Kelly joining the business saying, actually, Kelly, you've got an allocation of €150 to decide where we spend our CSR. It might be recycling, it might be, I can't think of things, recycling PV panels on your house, whatever it may be. But there's options for me to choose to buy into that part of the business, which is part of the employee branding proposition for new people coming in and the people already in the business. For me, you can only get to that point if you've gone through this process of understanding what the values and the culture of the business are. Then you know who's going to want to come into the business, because you're going to have those people that have that mindset about, actually, it's a great idea about saying, give me €150. Yeah, I want you to go and spend it on recycling or education in Zimbabwe, for example. Amazing. Why wouldn't I want to join that? Why wouldn't I want to join that business? For you, it might not speak to your values, and that's okay, because we need the people that are going to want to run with us.
I heard you say you have to go through the process.
Yeah.
What if there is a company that feel that they're already in control of this? It might not be a big company, up to maximum 50 people. You know, the culture is amazing. People have been working there for a long time. Just because it's such a small company, people buy into it. I don't want to say family, but you know, when it's smaller, you don't need that big vision. You're actually quite loyal towards the people that you work with. Hopefully, your own manager. Now, I was going somewhere with this. Do they have to be aware of the culture? Do they have to sort of, you know, what are our values again? Or can they just let this live?
It depends on what your strategy is for the business. So if you look at that example you've given, if you have a small business that feels like a family business, a lot of people don't like to use the word family when they're talking about going to work, and I completely understand that. So let's say community. So if we feel as though we're part of this small community, Everybody knows each other. We know where we're going. We work hard. We really love the fact that we're producing something that's meaningful. The question I would ask is, why is it you want to understand? Why, if you feel it's great, amazing, what's your strategy looking like? If you want to grow your business and you have aspirations over the next 3 years to double the size of the business, go into different markets, then there's a need to understand who we are right now. Because if we understand who we are right now, and we know that we want to keep as much of that core of the community, that safety, if you like, that sense that we know works for us, then you really do need to ask the questions about saying, so how do we describe it? How do we really describe it? And once we've managed to understand how we describe it, it's not about nailing it down, but it's really about understanding what's the purpose, what is our purpose here? And then we look at our 3-year strategy and we know we need to increase our headcount by 100%, 200%, whatever it may be. Then if we know what we've got and we've got it written down, we've got an understanding of it, then as it evolves over time, and as we do find in 12 months' time, goodness, we need to increase our headcount by 100% already, that's when you know that you need to start looking at things. I hate to use it. It's not formalizing. It's about having the will. It's about having the confidence as the business owner and the C-level to understand if this is what we believe works, and we know it works when we were this size, then we have to take that same model and take it to when we're growing and growing. And the only way we can do that is by talking to each other, deciding what it means, understanding what those value propositions are, and then helping those people that we're working with to come along for the journey with us, get them involved. And then as we go through this evolution of growth, then we revisit and we revisit. It's not...
Look at my eyes
fixed.
smiling, right? It's like you're serving this to me. Because look at this beautiful transition. Because now we are also going remote, aren't we?
We are.
So without that platform that you're just describing, where lies, we hire so many people we never ever met.
Absolutely. I think that you're right. One of the things that I can talk about MadeYou briefly because it touches about how it is that the culture works so beautifully at MadeYou. So most of the guys live in here in Malta. I live in rural France. Luke's amazing at doing this. He makes me smile every day because we use Teams and just messages get pinged backwards and forwards. It's just that notion of those touch points of humanity that happen during the period of a day. It's a small business of 5 people. That doesn't have to stop when you multiply that to a business of 300 people, 400 people, 1,000 people. If you have people living in Argentina and your base is here in Malta, there's time zones to take into account. If I'm responsible for that person in Malta, then I need to make sure that everybody else that's in my team, wherever they're based, also knows that Jose is based in Malta. That name came from nowhere, but it was a moment of genius. So Jose in Argentina is part of our team. So how do we make sure that he feels part of the team? So if we're going through the process, if we're looking at the culture and values of the business, Jose needs to understand the process we're going through, so that he can feel as though there is some relevance to him, especially afterwards when I'm managing him, helping him to understand how we can live and breathe those values in the work that we're doing. Most companies now, since post the pandemic, if we have a number of people that are working remotely, it's often the case that we find that companies are bringing people together once a quarter, once every 6 months, or at the very least once a year, and they're flying people in from all over the world. That's amazing. We've got the best talent working for our business. Let's take the opportunity when we're all together to revisit what these values look like for us. What does the culture feel like for us? Jose, what challenges do you find based over there when we're talking about what's going on in the company with the majority of the people based here? And that way we stay on the same page, we're moving in the same direction, and we're constantly revisiting it. It's that piece I was talking to you about, the operational magic that happens about how do we make it work on a day-to-day basis. And that's where the magic starts to happen. I could go on about this for hours, and I know we don't have hours to talk about that. No. But there's so much. I really love this work because it's the core of what happens. Peter Drucker said, I think in 1968, maybe later, I can't remember, he said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's not to say that strategy isn't important, it's vital. What he's saying there is, if we do not understand the culture of our business, if we do not understand the people that we want to attract and retain through our employee branding, if we do not understand our core values, strategy it's a dream. Because if you don't have all of those things in place, and all the people wanting to push hard and drive in the same direction, then your strategy you can't achieve it. Not without huge expense of losing people rehiring, which is fantastically expensive.
So this was true in the 1960s and it's true now as well.
Yes.
You've been doing this for over 20 years. What has changed?
Wow. I think that if I think about my career, when I used to work in banking, I used to work for one of the big banks in London many, many years ago. And if I think about the culture there, it was dog eat dog. It was really, it was challenging. And then when I moved out of there, I moved into various different leadership roles. And I think what I've noticed that what has changed is that technology has changed immeasurably. If we think about the Generation X, Generation Z, I think I'm Gen X, am I? I'm not entirely sure. But when we think about if you think about those models of how people have been brought up, how easy it is to communicate, how easy it is to share an opinion, 24-hour news now, etc., all of these things have led to a point where top-down manager says you do, generally speaking, has changed. If I think about this sector, one of the things I love about this sector is the approach that people have, that it's involved. They want people to have a voice. They want them to be involved in what's going on in the business. And with that level of encouragement coming from the top, working its way through in a collaborative fashion, means that you set your cultures and value based on what your people are feeling about the business now. Therefore, your strategy is a done deal. There's no two ways about it. You attract the right people, really importantly, you keep the talent that you have, and therefore, go back to the initial, what you said a moment ago about a smaller business, then as that starts to grow and you're revisiting and evolving what your values and culture are about, it's the dream. It's what every business should be working towards. If you can manage to understand that, and the journey's not complicated, it's complex, but it's not complicated to map it out, that's where the magic happens. And that's where you get your bonuses paid and the business grows and everybody's very happy.
Is that a perfect way to end our chat?
It's an exceptional way to end. Thank you very much, Heidi.
Oh my God, on the top, we end.
We do.
Thank you, Kelly, for coming.
You're very welcome.
Pleasure having you here.
Great pleasure being here. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.